Why were Indian manuscript traditions largely excluded or undervalued in colonial and post-colonial curriculums, and how can we begin to reverse that?
I'll tell you a very interesting thing, this one. And these days, of course, the language has been a very big problematic issue now. In 1920s and 30s, so our Nittur Srinivas Rao, who was one of the retired Chief Justice of the Karnataka High Court, he once commented when these protests were happening that the language in court should be Kannada, the medium of judgment, or the argument should be Kannada. He said, I find it amusing because when I started my practice, that was the situation. I mean, arguments were happening in Kannada, judgments were written in Kannada and kept. So, what changed that situation? To the extent that these days we have to have strong protests to bring Kannada back into the court. It's a very interesting thing. It was a technology problem. What changed the matters was the invention of the typewriter. The typewriter came because what happens is when you argue and the judge has to give his judgment, dictates it and somebody writes it. And then that is to be preserved. So courts employed what are called writers. Police stations, courts had writers because it has to be preserved so others have to read, so it has to be good handwriting. So people with good handwriting, scribes or writers they were called. That was a position in the court as well as in the police stations, writer. So they used to write. And when typewriter came, it made the situation so easy for English. They said now, if you want to write something, legibility is not at all an issue. You don't have to look for specialized set of people who can write well. Now anybody can learn typing and he can type and it will be legible for the next generation. So the English typewriter which was invented, that came and they found it very easy to type judgments and then also make copies, which was not easy earlier. If you want 2 copies of the judgment, 2 people had to write. Now with the discovery of the carbon copy and this typewriter, you can make 3 copies at the same time. So this single thing, so for first few years apparently the judgments were given in Kannada, then translated to English, typed and kept. After that they removed they started giving it directly in English and this thing, Kannada went out of the court. So by that time people wanted a Kannada typewriter similar to what English does, similar typewriter machine for Kannada. Another 40-50 years had elapsed, the freedom had come. Karnataka, there is a very well recorded history of the Kannada typewriter and its problems, etc. So this technology invention, whenever there is a development in technology, it has to seep into local languages. Otherwise, the language has a problem of getting left behind. Because, for example, now AI, if we don't get our data in, we will be left behind. That's the point. So that's a very important thing that it was there, our languages were there, they were being used. But these technology interventions, when they come, we have to definitely put some efforts and bring that technology development to our things. So this is where when I started Sriranga Digital Technologies, in the background of all this this thing I had gathered, studies I had made, started Sriranga Digital Technology with one line theme to bring the fruits of technology to Indian languages.